Welcome to part 2 of activity 8.7. Now we were cut off by creditors allowance journal, where we debited the creditors control and we were supposed to then credit the other accounts. Now I have unfortunately already completed all the information, so I'm going to quickly just run you through this. We are working with the creditors allowance journal. We debited the creditors control account. Now we have to go to trading stock, because the next column there, column total, is 1,230 in the trading stock account. So on the credit side, 1,230 from the CAJ creditors control on the 30th of November. And I'm done. Stationery is then the next one. So I'm going to go to the stationery account. The rule says debit creditors control, credit the others. So stationery on the credit side from the CAJ, 190 Rand, and the contra entry is creditors control. Okay, that was then the stationery. We didn't have any equipment returns, and the last return that we had, or it's actually an allowance, was the sundry column. And in the sundry column there is one entry, and it was for repairs. So on the credit side of the repairs account, repairs on the credit side, I've entered that transaction. It was on the 25th of November. Creditors control is the contra entry. It was recorded in the CAJ and the amount is 85 Rand. Okay, so I'm done with the creditors allowance journal. I have ticked all the columns. I have posted all the information from the creditors allowance journal. Now I have to move on to the debtors journal first. We have two columns, one for sales and one for cost of sales. Two columns with amounts, okay, sales and cost of sales. Now the rule for posting the sales column is debit debtors control and credit sales. And for the cost of sales column, it is debit cost of sales and credit trading stock. So I will then take, with that in mind, I will go back and I will go to my debtors control account. Debtors control account. The rule says debit debtors control. So on the debit side, on the 30th, my contra entry being sales, DJ 4,900. That's the entry, the debit entry, and the credit entry then sales on the credit side. So sales account on the credit side, debtors control is my contra entry. It was recorded in the DJ and the amount was 4,900. I have then posted the sales amount from the debtors journal. The next one is the cost of sales. Now I'm with the cost of sales account now. The rule says debit cost of sales, credit trading stock. So on the debit side of the cost of sales account, I have on the 30th, I don't have to rewrite the 30th because it's still the same date. Only when the date changes do I have to write the new date here. So trading stock on the debit side, DJ was the journal where it comes from, and the amount was 2,800. I have done the debit part of the entry. Now for the credit part. The credit part is in the trading stock account. On the credit side, it says cost of sales, DJ 2,800. So that's the credit part. Now, when I did this entry, I realized that we actually forgot this part from the CRJ. We did not post the trading stock contra entry. We debited cost of sales, but we forgot to credit the trading stock with the cost of sales amount. So I rectified that. Luckily, it's not a problem because all of these transactions happen on the 30th, so it doesn't have to be in a specific order. So cost of sales from the CRJ and 16,000 Rand for that amount in the cost of sales column. Why is it cost of sales in the trading stock? Because that's the contra entry, the name of the account that was debited. Okay, and I'm done with the debtors journal. Now for the last journal, debtors allowance journal, I have two columns. The one is debtors allowance and the other one is cost of sales. Now when we enter into the debtors journal, this is when the business had credit sales. So when we sold goods on credit to a client, a debtor, it was recorded into the debtors journal. Now quite the opposite is true. When a debtor then returns goods to us, or trading stock or whatever, to us it is recorded into the debtors allowance journal as a debtors allowance. Now you will see with this transaction we had two entries. One was 665 Rand selling price of goods that were returned, and we calculated the cost of sales for that. That was 380. The other part was 500 Rand for a discount allowed to a debtor. Now, this is where a debtor maybe phoned us and complained and said something is wrong, but he or she doesn't want to return the goods. They are merely asking for an allowance or a discount, and we allow that, and we say yes, it's fine. We want to keep this customer, and we would then give them a discount to keep them satisfied. So the discount is recorded into the debtor's allowance column, but because no goods were returned, no trading stock was brought back to us, nothing is entered into the cost of sales. So this cost of sales of 380 is only for that transaction of 665. Okay. Now, with that in mind, the rule for posting the debtor's allowance journal to the general ledger, the debtor's allowance column is debit debtor's allowance, credit debtor's control. The cost of sales is now the opposite of what it was in the debtor's journal. And now it's debit trading stock and credit cost of sales instead of debit cost of sales, credit trading stock, the opposite. Okay, so let's quickly do this. I have to move to the debtor's allowance account. Now, this was not opened initially because there was no opening balance in the trial balance, so I had to open up this afterwards. The debit entry on the 30th of November, debtor's control is going to be my contra entry, so I'm going to credit debtor's control. It's a transaction that was recorded in the DAJ and the amount was 1165. Okay, so I've done the debit part of the entry. Now I have to do the credit part, and the credit part is in the debtor's control column because it says credit debtor's control. So the contra entry here is then debtor's allowance, the name of the account that was debited. Transaction comes from the DAJ and the amount was 1165. The next amount that I have to work with is the amount in the cost of sales column, the 380. The rule says debit trading stock, credit cost of sales, and I'm close to my trading stock account, so let's do the debit entry first. Cost of sales, DAJ 380, debit entry for the debtor's allowance journal, the cost of sales column. And then in the cost of sales account, on the credit side, 30 November 2018, trading stock from the DAJ 380. And I've done my debit entry and I've done my credit entry, and I am done with the debtor's allowance journal. I have posted all the journals that I had and all the information in the journals to my general ledger. Okay, let's quickly talk about balancing an account. If I have an account where I have entries on one side, I basically just total this account. I know that some textbooks explain that we have to balance, have a balance carried over and brought down, etc. It's a bit complicated, and why overcomplicate things? Life is complicated enough. So if I have entries only on the one side, I total this account. If I have to do a trial balance again, this would be the amount that I put in my trial balance, and it would go with capital in the credit column. Okay, so this is for if I have entries on the one side. Equipment will work exactly the same. Trading stock is a different story. Now, if I want to balance an account, remember we had only this information. If I want to balance an account, I have steps. Step one is determine which side has got the bigger total. So if I add all of this together, this is obvious the bigger total. This is smaller because it's got only 1,230, 2,800 and 16,000. So what I do is I add all the amounts together on the bigger total. I get 51,055 Rand. I use this amount on both sides. Now remember, neat lines to show that I'm balancing this account, and these have to be in one line. Okay, now this would have been left open, it would have been blank. How do I then determine what is the balance? I take the total minus the amounts that I have already entered to get this balance. Okay, so I take the 51,055 Rand minus 16,000 minus 2,800 minus 1,230, and it leaves me with 31,025 Rand. Okay, so if the balance is on the credit side above the total, I will bring it down to the debit side below the total On the 1st of December then, the balance brought down is 31,025, meaning that on the 1st of December, when I start trading, I have a balance, or I have trading stock to the value of 31,025 Rand to trade with. Okay, let's quickly do another one. Let's quickly do creditors control because it's got an opposite entry. If I look at creditors control, and this is now before I balanced the account, the information I had was on the credit side a 12,345 and a 21,000, and on the debit side I had 12,500 and a 1,505. So if I have a quick glance, I will see that this is the bigger side, the bigger total. If I add this together, it's going to be bigger than that total. So I take these two amounts, add them together to get the total. The total I will use on both sides. To get the balance, I take the total less the existing amount. So I'm going to take 33,345 less 1,505 less 12,500, and I'm left with a balance of 19,340. So balance carried over. It's 19,340 above the total, and I'm going to bring it down to the opposite side below the total. So on the credit side then, I will have the opening balance on the 1st of December 2018 of 19,340. And that is posting to General Ledger in short, and also balancing an account. I hope you understood and you found it helpful. You know where to get me if you still have some questions.